Okay, so we're back at it for Retrospective 2, and we're gonna just start filling out the stickies for what went well and what can be improved. So I'm gonna give everybody a couple minutes just to get some of those up on the board, and we'll talk about it after. And just let me know if you guys are finished.
I'm done.
You're done?
Yeah.
She all good?
Just one sec.
Sure. Take your time.
And then you said to like whichever we think is most relatable.
Yep, exactly.
I think I'm good.
Okay. And now you can start voting on the ones that you thought were impactful for you. And just let me know when you guys are finished.
I think I'm done.
You're done?
Yep, down.
Okay. So let's go through what went well. The top one in what went well was participation. So I guess everybody participating in their roles in their different projects, processes of the project. Um, The second place ones were the set action items from the previous sprint were met, the previous retrospective were met. There was also fast decision making, as well as assisting others with different parts and different aspects of the project. The ones that weren't as favorable were the brainstorming and communication between team members. For what went well. What can be improved? The first place was putting all the work together, which is the primary focus of Sprint 3,
Yeah.
putting all the different parts and sections together. Second was meeting attendance. There's been issues with the team member not reporting for some calls that we need. Also, in terms of these weekly calls, I think maybe merging the time for the calls with scheduling calls directly with people who we're working with directly. It might make the meeting times a bit easier and shorter. And the more in-depth collaboration, especially moving forward when individual work needs to be connected. So that's definitely a big priority for moving forward as well. And yeah, so that's basically it for what went well and what can be improved. What do you guys have in terms of ideas for improving based off of those?
I was thinking when we're talking about reducing the meeting times unless needed,
Mhm,
what do you guys think? Like we're meeting twice a week right now.
mhm,
Um, if we were to like do it only once a week for now, just to test it out, and then because everybody's kind of working on what they're assigned to work on,
mhm,
and then for example, like you and G always have these little conversations where it's just really about the things that you guys are doing, and then me and Renee, we are like more on the front end development part, so it's like whenever I do have something to say, it's more related to Renee's work,
yeah.
and I think vice versa as well. So I guess that would go to the both of these points where we can schedule calls directly with the teammates that we're working with,
Mhm.
and maybe shorten or reducing the meeting times to once a week.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking of too, where, if especially because you're not directly working with the machine learning aspect,
Yeah,
um for call, maybe she and I can schedule calls separately.
yeah,
Renee would most likely have to be involved for certain aspects of it, or maybe, I can meet with Renee separately, just with putting together the front end and the back end stuff.
right,
Um, but, for the most part, you wouldn't be needed in those direct conversations.
right,
And I do remember like last week we went, over an hour because we were talking about discussing the machine learning
right,
aspects and stuff.
yeah,
And obviously it's good that you're there to see what's going on.
definitely.
But certain aspects of it, it's like you don't
Yeah,
really need to be there for.
exactly. Yeah,
And then we can always recap in a couple minutes,
yeah,
separately if we need to.
yeah,
Um, so I think that's a good idea. So as far as like an action item,
yeah.
maybe we can do focusing more on scheduling calls individually
Hmm.
as needed, and then doing a once a week group meeting.
Yeah,
So, I mean, I guess we can just still keep like 2 times a week, but reduce the time, like set a limit like 30, 40 minutes. That also will work.
Yeah, that's true too. Yeah,
mhm,
limiting the time too. Yeah, 30 minutes, 40 minutes would probably be a good max also.
yeah.
Um, I'm
I
just gonna
actually
put
like that better. Now that I think about it, just setting
the
a
30.
minimum time
Mhm.
on it rather than cutting down. Because sometimes what happens is when we're working on certain things, it's like I do want that meeting on Friday or on Monday, right? Like we're working on something we discussed already, but then
Yeah,
something new pops up, right? So maybe I agree with G's point here, setting a timer on the time limit is better.
yeah,
That's
I
right.
agree on
Weeks
that.
go by pretty fast. There's something like maybe we should discuss like twice a week instead of
Yeah,
like only once.
yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, so we keep that option open. And then like I said in the beginning too, if anybody needs individual communication with somebody else, for a specific aspect of the project, just message them directly and say, hey, can I set up a meeting with you? I just want to talk about it one-on-one, or with three people, depending on the situation.
Yeah.
Setting up virtual meetings. Let's see what other things. So I think that covers, the more in-depth collaboration, but maybe also adding in communication to that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Because I know, like, Fariel, you were talking to Renee about a lot of situations and stuff in terms of the UI and the functionality.
Yeah.
Um, and just maybe opening up the lines of communication more, which eventually would come to me if there is no response.
Yeah.
And I will have no problem reaching out, and I've done in the past too.
Yeah.
So I can write in uh, open lines of communication. And I'm not saying to be on Discord 24/7, but just to check it every now and then throughout the day if somebody pings you.
Yeah.
Um, and
Maybe under action items, we can also add, now that, sprint 3 and 4 are going to be a little bit more intense in terms of workload, that we also maybe define a certain list of functionalities that have to be there.
yeah,
Like, for this sprint, now that I like look back at it, I think it would have been better if we, right from the beginning, have like a set action item list, right? Like this and this needs to be there. These are good to have. And obviously, as things progress, some things take more time, some things take less time. But if we can have like a set list of certain at least action items, then it would be easier also during discussions to talk about, this is the certain thing that we wanted. Did it happen or not? And if not, why?
yeah, I'm gonna keep that as a priority list
Yeah.
for tasks and app functionalities.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. Because Renee's been really helpful with the front end aspect.
Yeah.
Um, but it seems like he was adding different functions that we didn't really discuss, so it
Yeah.
could add a bit more complications.
Yeah.
It's definitely helpful for the overall goal of the project. But it wasn't really some of them weren't necessarily priority items that we needed for the deliverable, even though we got everything done
Yeah.
that we wanted to. But yeah, so changing it up to focus on that. I know our time limit is almost out in terms of Zoom, unfortunately.
Oh, okay.
But anything last minute that you guys want to add?
So be it.
That's it.
Yeah, I think we're good.